Jacked versus Ryse, two of the most popular pre-workouts on the opposite ends of the categories in pre-workouts. One, Jacked, is an exotic blend of stimulants along with other ingredients. Ryse is a mainstream pre-workout, one that's able to sell on Amazon, while Jacked is not. Apart from that, let's assume that for Jacked, we're going to take 2 scoops, which is 1 serving, which is close to the caffeine content in Ryse. So it says here you can take 1 to 3 scoops, but for what I used it for, it was 2 scoops. So we're going to assume that's the serving size when we're comparing these two pre-workouts. So at 2 scoops, there's nearly 300 milligrams of caffeine in Jacked, along with other exotic stimulants like DMAA. It does say it has geranium in them, which is known as DMAA, but that's questionable and debatable. In Ryse, there's caffeine. There's 2 sources of caffeine along with theobromine. So the 2 sources of caffeine is the regular caffeine, anhydrous, and then caffeine malate, which is a slower digesting form of caffeine in the form of XR, which is basically the same thing. It's delayed caffeine release. And there's also theobromine, 100 milligrams. So theobromine is sort of like caffeine, not exactly the same. It's more mild in energy and it provides more of a mood uplift, while Jacked uses caffeine only and only exotic stimulants like DMAA and geranium. Geranium might be DMAA, we don't really know, but it does provide an exotic experience. It does also have yohimbine, but Ryse only has 2 forms of caffeine and theobromine. It does have a nootropic to help with focus, but it's not a stimulant and will not increase heart rate. The nootropic will help with focus and concentration, while Jacked only has stimulants along with huperzine, but that's at the very end of the prop blend. So speaking of prop blends, we don't know the dosages of ingredients in Jacked, but we do know it has 25 milligrams of geranium per scoop. So that means there's 50 milligrams of geranium, but again, we don't know if it's pure DMAA. But we're going to talk about my experiences with these 2 pre-workouts, because I did go from using caffeine-only pre-workouts to using Jacked and then to using Ryse. So how is the experience? We're going to get to in a second. But in terms of nitric oxide, Ryse has citrulline, 4.5 grams. So that's the minimum dose that we need to increase nitric oxide production. That will help with pumps, blood flow, nutrient delivery to the muscles that we need it to. Jacked still uses arginine, which is basically the same thing that they had 10 years ago when it was released. And speaking of 10 years ago, this isn't the same exact formula that was around at that time. At that time, there was actually DMAA, but this time, again, it's sort of debatable, questionable, we don't really know, but the experience is different. So while there isn't really nitric oxide boosters in Jacked, it's still a fun pre-workout to use and it will still give some nice pumps as a result from the high energy that it provides. So Ryse is a predictable type of pre-workout. It tastes really good and half the serving is actually flavoring. And it's just a straight caffeine dose with a bit of focus. Jacked, on the other hand, it's more well-rounded. It has better energy, better urgency, better everything. Euphoria is also there, but it's nothing crazy. It's not like the top strongest pre-workouts that I'm always, reviewing. This is more like a fun entry-level pre-workout that not anyone, but the beginners who are interested in using the hardcore pre-workouts would start exploring with. This would be a logical first step. After using a pre-workout with, say, 300 milligrams of caffeine, this would be a nice step up. But in terms of 300 milligrams of caffeine, this has 400 milligrams of caffeine. But again, it's just straight energy, while Jacked is more fun, more well-rounded, has better mood uplift, and it's a really enjoyable pre-workout. I enjoy taking Jacked. Ryse was tasty, but that's honestly all I looked forward to, was just the flavor. And in terms of the results, it was just straightforward and it wasn't anything crazy. It was just a reliable pre-workout energy type of thing. While Jacked, I really enjoyed it. I really looked forward to taking it. There was focus, there was urgency, and I really preferred this over this. But if you're looking for like a straight athlete type of pre-workout with everything that's legal on top of the label, like you will not get If you get drug tested, then of course Jacked may trigger a false positive, as it has stimulants that resemble the structure of amphetamines almost. They're very similar, which is why it would trigger a negative test on a drug test, but Ryse would not, as it only has caffeine and straight stimulants that are allowed with competitions, athletes, and whatnot. But again, check with your athlete or organization just to make sure that you're not taking anything that would, potentially trigger a false positive. But forgetting all that, what pre-workout would I take? Which one would I recommend? Well, I would recommend Jacked if you're looking for something fun. Ryse if you want something that's tasty and has, the basics, it has everything you need. But Jacked is more fun. I would recommend this, especially if you are exploring hardcore pre-workouts. Jacked is a good choice. And also the flavor is okay. It's good. It's not bad. Ryse is just super tasty. And it's a straight energy shot and provides some nice focus with some nice pumps, but the energy is just straightforward and not really anything exciting. Jacked is more exciting. I would go with this instead of this. Hope this helps.